Um, okay. As usual, I listened. I had this time fewer comments, although I actually wanted to go back to something that I didn't cover. So I had mentioned the Julie Sammy, that was with Bettina card. This was the Indian woman who was the PhD, who was involved with the elephant. Now, as I spoke about the other, PhDs that were on there, but there was one guy who was a friend of theirs, extremely interesting, extremely smart. And he was involved, this is of course research and very advanced. This is stuff that'll have applications in maybe a decade or more. But it was, he kept, they said, did he tell you about the tale of the cat in the box? And I was like, yeah, he gave me that analogy. They're like, oh, it's crazy. I'm like, no, it's not crazy. It made a hell of a lot of sense. My concern is what he was working on in the right hands can be extremely helpful. In the wrong hands, extremely dangerous. And the thing is, it wouldn't be his fault. Extremely nice guy, extremely brilliant. But see, this is where you see, it's like with Einstein, what was it? If I had known, I would have been a clockmaker. He wasn't too happy about how all that stuff ended up with the bombs. But so, all of the technology in good hands is good. In bad hands, it's dangerous. Oh, and I guess when I was talking about the fable of bees and Thomas Wilcox, The Choice Drop of Honey, it wasn't, it was a little, because I said, well, it's the same thing. However, it's the same issue, if you will, about morality in a society, whereas Mandeville is advocating for a libertine and hedonistic society, and Thomas Wilcox with a choice drop of honey from the rock of Christ. Of course, that's not the case. But the comparison there is, it's still, what's the morality and the paradigm of the trajectory that you want for your society, and it repeats and it repeats and it repeats. So I was kind of like, well, I wasn't really clear on that. Then the other thing, when with the NFL that I've been talking about, I got into Lee Topping Brady because her stepfather was with the Atlanta Falcons, and her father was also, I forget, but I think it was baseball, but New York, but very involved in all of these things have just become a money-making cesspool. So my point being with the offspring was, of course, it was their parents or step-parents or whoever, have to also be looking at the ramifications of what's going on. Now, the other person that I had was Dwight Scharr in Washington, D.C. He started Northern Virginia Homes, big real estate mogul in Washington. His son Doug, I knew back in the 80s. I didn't know him from college, but I knew him through the guys that I knew from college, my gay friends. And I remember Doug, he told me one time, he said, Oh yeah, Cornelia. The last time I saw Cornelia, she was doing a striptease on a baby grand with lines of cocaine all over the place. Now, Doug, to his credit, because I mean, he had a loft in New York, living all of that life. And he said, one day I just woke up because it's just continual partying. He said, this is no life. And he packed his bags. And he's like, most of the people, my friends in New York, was like, what happened to Doug? And he came down to DC, and then he had a landscaping architect company that did I mean, his big client a lot of times was the houses that his father or the company had built. But his father, I mean, he told me how immoral his father was. And I think anyone who's been in real estate in Washington, D.C. for the past 30, 40 years, I forget, it's got to be 40 years with his father, can tell. Of course, he has started at some university, you know, something in his name, like everybody. And I mean, he raked in on the rise of the Fourth Reich going on in Washington for the past, as I say, 40 years or more. He's a rags to riches story as well. Now, Doug, I remember one time he told me, he said, oh my God, because it was the house I was living in Brussels. He said, I showed up and you had gone, you'd moved. And we're like, last time I came by, she was here, because this is one of the things with the expats. You kind of are, no, we got to move, and you don't have a lot of notice, and sometimes it can be in a month, 2 months. I mean, you're hoping for more than that. So we were constantly moving around, but he you know, he'd show up sometimes. And he came to Madrid. That would have been 2008. That's my kids by that time. Long story, but we're at with my ex-husband with him at his parents' house. And so he came out to dinner, and yeah, I'm like, everything's exploding, and yeah, I didn't give all the details, and he's kind of like, oh yeah, that happened to my sister, his younger sister. She had married, I mean, I think a real social climber and military and very violent. And he told me that one night the helicopters were coming with the lights at the house because they had been called, because the husband was out there with, I don't know what kind of gun, and whole scenario. And I'm like, well, you should have some compassion. I mean, that it hadn't gotten to that point. It was another thing that pissed me off with everybody. Well, does he have a gun? Does he have a gun? I'm like, no. We have what, knives? You know, there are many other ways to kill people rather than just a gun. And, you know, it was like, oh, ha, ha, ha. I'm like, well, thanks a lot. You know, I'm trying to get the consulate. I mean, hell, his father, we'll get into this. Yeah, he has contacts, even if Doug doesn't, because Doug was the one, he said, oh, you never know if your friends are your friends because they like you or because you have $1 million home or lots of money. And I said to Doug, but you don't have any money. Yeah, but my father doesn't. He has great houses. And yeah, okay. So, and then he said something strange before he left, something about my father, and because my father's or was a doctor, and well, maybe he's a drug addict. You know, a lot of them are. I'm like, well, yeah, I know a lot of them are, but well, this actually gets into when I found out that my father was on elevated dosages of lithium, which I know my siblings are going to be extremely angry that I'm talking about, but they know I will. And I mean, this gets into the Britney Spears case right now. I mean, my blood's boiling with that case, and the drugs that they have this poor girl on, and the way that they have exploited her and taken advantage of her. So I won't deviate, but I mean, ooh, when I heard that she won't take her meds, she won't take her meds. Do you realize the damage that you're doing to, because they're serious, I'm pretty sure with her case, it's lithium. This is not something that I mean, this can cause serious health problems, like with your heart. So it's not something, pass out the boom boom. That's all they want to do. Here, pop a pill, pop a pill, pop a pill, and just take, you know, put up with it. So that, I was like, well, anyway. So, I mean, when I got back to the States, I called, I mean, I've lost contact with most people and things, and I called him a couple times. I mean, he never called me back. I'm like, fine. I mean, I got so much to do here. I didn't come to socialize or anything like that. So whatever. But so his father, he was I didn't mark it in here, and I'm sorry, because everybody's going to be like, this lady doesn't know anything about sports, and that's true. And so his father was Redskins. Sport. I mean, I'm almost positive I put it in here. It's got to be Redskins, but I did. Oh, that's another thing. What are the Redskins called these days? My brother had told me when I came back, he said, yeah, there was this whole case that went to court about the Redskins, that this is racist, and I was like, wait a second. Has the American Indian population complained about this? Is this something that they find offensive? Because I mean, it could be taken both ways. I mean, those Redskins, it's like white, yellow, black, brown. I mean, okay, red is actually within the category of yellow. I mean, when I use these terms, it's not in a derogatory fashion. It's just to identify you do have these different groups. It's like when I say men or women, they're different groups. And you know, the whites are more the European, or so it's grouping a group of people that have a homogeneous basis of being a group. I'm not saying one group is better than the other, but I have to identify and give a definition about a certain group that I'm talking about. So I personally, for me, and this, as I say, is something more of the Indian American community, to say we find this offensive or we don't find this offensive. So I don't know the details of the case, but I was like, this is another case of you're bringing this type of things to court when the issues for the American Indian populations of the United States are so much more important than something like this. So I never understood that whole thing. Well, if you understand the crazies in the courts, then you understand the crazy lawyers. They don't care. They get money either way. So I'm pretty sure it was a football. Whatever the DC team is called these days, or their colors, as I say, everybody will be like, is that woman a bimbo? I am a bimbo when it comes to all of these sports. I am a bimbo. So now his father, he was a guy who ran for governor of Virginia. I didn't put down his name, but then that guy was Aaron Fox. Well, what became Aaron Fox? He had been with that law firm. So that's how, man, as I say, the exact lengths you can go. This is all on Wikipedia, but you can see how, the business, the powerful business, and the real estate and the Fourth Reichers, they're Jewish. And Virginia courts are some of the worst in the country, and abusing the rights of women and children. I mean, I've been told this by advocates, oh, they're the worst. So you see how these interconnections, they're using their connections to promote their self-interests. And of course, you want to promote your own self-interests. I mean, that everybody's got to keep a roof over their head and deal with the realities of living and eating. However, you need to consider what the ramifications are with those networks, and as well, be you willing to use your networks to promote something that's outside of just your personal interests. I mean, you can do both. It doesn't have to be one or the other. None, as I say, I'm not going to be Gandhi on the street. That doesn't work. So again, it's about balance. So those are the, I guess, the points that I wanted to make. So let's see what they have for us this evening. Oh, and I hope everybody is staying dry. I was looking at Louisiana. I mean, I have a friend in Covington, which is, farther north. It's near New Orleans. It's across the lake from New Orleans. So it's not on the coast, but it looks like the coast is getting hit, which of course is standard fare. So I hope everybody is safe, and that'll be okay. I mean, see, Louisiana is another one. My pet peeve, excuse me, about all of the corruption. I mean, it's bad. It's bad there. I think Mississippi and Louisiana are probably the two worst states in the United States. What was funny was when my parents were still living in Louisiana, my older sister had lived in Angola, and the country. And there's a jail. It's like the worst jail probably in the United States. In Louisiana, that's the Angola jail. So when my family, my parents would be like, "Oh yeah, our daughter's in Angola," people were like, "In jail?" Okay, let's take this. Like, no, the country in Africa. Oh, I went to visit her in Haiti and Port-au-Prince. I mean, that's another country. And it goes into historic. They were the first. Yep, we got some there. We'll pull those out. They were the first to declare their independence, or excuse me, a Black country of the Caribbean, at least. I mean, really only the Caribbean, and from the French. And they had a huge debt involved with it, and they've been paying ever since. And then add on all of the other, I mean, the corruption there. It just, I went there, it was end of 87. My sister's, well, now ex-husband, he would have to call downtown where the store was to find out if there were any dead bodies on the street, and it was okay if he came down there. So, I mean, Sean Penn, I think, knows what I'm talking about. And all of this. He's got an NGO that works down there. But I mean, that's why when people talk to me about their poverty, their misery, I'm like, can I take you someplace where you really, really can see it? And maybe you will appreciate what you have, even if you're in a really bad situation, because you could be worse. Okay, so I'm gonna do 2 cards. We've got more political stuff. Oh, but we do have a feminist here. So we've got getting old is not fun. Michael Savage, media personality. Okay, name rings a bell. I know he's alt-right, so I've got Nazi SWAT stickers all on this. These are the ones that from 2020. So he's a Trump loyalist. This one, oh gosh, again, Alex van der Zwaan is an attorney, Dutch. The line Dutchman. Russian olive, well, I'll read that afterwards when we get there. So then Kellyanne Conway. Then Rick Gates, Trump's deputy campaign manager, the turncoat. I mean, I haven't followed all of these guys, but I just, after the 2016, when I went ballistic and I was like, I warned you, I was just, you know what? I got to concentrate on my survival first. And you guys are going to drive me freaking crazy if I try and follow all of this. And that is the objective. So go ahead and self-destruct. And then when we get to the end of the line and we see what's going on, then I'll get back in the game. But I mean, if you look, I didn't from 2016. Like Trump administration, I would post a couple of things, but much. I mean, you know, why follow the bullshit of what you know, how it's going to end up, more or less. Ah, Barack Obama. Then we've got Emin Agorlov, the Elvis of Azerbaijan. Okay, so goodness, it gets hot and cold. Sorry, it gets hot and cold in this place. So maybe. Okay, let me just so it gets as far away as possible. Okay, so there's just one today. So let's do this guy first. Michael Savage, as I say, the name's familiar, but I don't know much about him. In this one, it says he's the Winston Churchill of our time, and I've crossed it out and I said he's the Hitler of our time. He's a Trump loyalist, Savage nation. So, I'll just kind of go with the alt-right media and how that's playing into, it's basically Fox News. There's other stuff, there's a whole slew of them, because particularly, I talked about that before, after 2006, there was a whole bunch of online platforms that started and podcasts, and everybody's jumped in the game, everybody. And it is producing such a cacophony, it's not even funny. One of the examples that I have, it was, and this is I posted LinkedIn, Facebook, I believe it was June 2020. And it was this podcast of wacko stuff. However, there were some good points, and this is where it brought up that Bill Gates. There were some patents on the virus in the United States, like a whole slew of patents that he had, like 19 patents that this had started in the research had started in labs in the United States, and there was Harvard, but I think also North Carolina. It wasn't clear. I saw and that had been, we can't do that on American soil, and that's when it was moved with, the researcher to the Wuhan, the Chinese. As I say, these things have to be investigated and verified, and it's easily verified. Who is this person? Where was she? Where's the paper trail of money? The different things. However, what was interesting was the patents. So I'm like, okay, if the virus that we have out there is the same as a patent, well, it's pretty obvious that it did come from a laboratory. Now, if there's not a patent, that doesn't necessarily mean that it didn't come from a laboratory. However, if there is a patent and it is the exact same that what is out there, put two and two together. Now, the next question, who holds the patents on those things? Is it Bill Gates or one of those, because they got all sorts of holding companies and all sorts of structures. Who holds those patents? Then that doesn't also mean that it was not accidental. But these are the questions that the authorities should be asking, instead of who sending a bunch of idiots they got working for them to play nice with the Chinese in an investigation. Still not clear what happened. I mean, yes, you have to deal with the emergency situation. That's your priority. But we got a whole bunch of people out there who aren't in the emergency situation who can be starting the investigation of how this got out there, what's going on. There's mutations. Are there patents on the mutations? I mean, as I say, I'm not an expert in this. I'm not a medical doctor, but these are exactly the questions that those who are competent should be asking. So, and I talked like Rush Limbaugh the last time. It just, the extreme, the media platforms are all either you're right or you're left. You drink the Kool-Aid or you get thrown out with the dishwasher. So like my biggest pet peeve, and I guess, okay, there's Sean Hannity, of course, that I sometimes listen to, but my favorite is with the if you want to look at the right and the left in all its glory, is the Five on Fox News and The View. I'm not sure where The View is which that is on, but there, I mean, I could do a whole sitcom just using those people together. Oh Lord, I would have a field day. Oh, I would have such a good time. But I mean, there's Meghan McCain on The View. I'm like, okay, let's talk about our dumb blonde debutantes, John McCain's daughter. I already talked about John McCain and everything's going on there. And then Whoopi Goldberg. Now again, I loved Whoopi Goldberg in The Color Purple. And I've also really enjoyed a lot of her movies, her comedies. Very, very funny. And I've enjoyed that. But she is a left-wing extremist. And this was years ago. I mean, this was years after it had happened, but years ago for me, when I was, doing research and investigating different things. But there had been, is it Polanski? I believe it's Polanski, who had to leave the United States because of child molestation charges pending on him, and he basically had to flee. And it was a girl of 14 years old. Again, what was she doing at that party? I'm pretty sure she was drugged up. What was she doing at that party? But yeah, I mean, my understanding, that was unconsensual sex. And particularly with a 14-year-old, Yeah, you go after Prince Andrew for a 17-year-old, yet Whoopi Goldberg, when it's Polanski with a 14-year-old, she says, well, it wasn't really rape. I mean, it's the same situation there as the Epstein stuff. So where is Whoopi Goldberg's position on Epstein if she doesn't consider the Polanski affair rape? No, you know, I do believe it's Roman Polanski. I may be mistaken. So see, there's double standards all over the place. Well, then everybody else basically is you know, left-wing extremist feminists in one form or another. And I mean, quite frankly, I've listened to these women in my research. That's really the only reason. Then there's the five. As I say, if you look at these two groups, really, it is, you know, if you look at it with a grain of salt, it is comical. So the five, I would say there's this guy, Gutfeld, I think his name is, something like that. You talk about your noxious, extreme right, white male supremacist who is so totally ignorant, so totally misinformed. So it boggles the mind. I'd love to know how much that man's making per year, but it boggles the mind that you know, a media chain, and respectable media chain, would actually put that on you know, in their program. The others, as I say, he's the extreme right. And then you have on the extreme left, Juan Williams. Now, Juan Williams, he wrote a book about the founding fathers. I have it as well. I didn't read the whole thing, but you know, like what would the founding fathers think about the situation today, and blah blah blah. So he came into Kalari one night. I had no idea who he was, and I sat him, well, table 72. I would, you know, if I had known, because of course the manager called me up right away after I see him. She's like, you know who that is? I'm like, no. And you're like, Juan Williams. So then I Google it. This is when I still have my computer, and I see his book on founding fathers. So he's right in front of the hostess station. And I mean, I'm not gonna like, oh, well, let's move you now. You just, you know, deal. I mean, it was a window table. I give them a window table, but I saved those, and some, you know, we got somebody else coming in, some VIP, which I didn't realize he was. So I see he's with the founding fathers, and I'm like, oh well, yeah. Well, let's talk about John Dickinson and John Paul Jones. I mean, he's with it looked like a colleague having dinner. So of course I'm not going to go over and bother him. But he keeps on calling me over to the table. Like, he called me over for one thing, and and I'm trying to talk to him about the founding fathers, John Dickinson, you know, and work it into the conversation. Long story short, because Rita, the manager, I mean, I think she's like, oh God, Quenby's going to be given a voice with Juan Williams. Oh God. So she keeps on, because I got my telephone right there. So she keeps on calling the front hostess's stand to get me to give a, you know, a reason to get me away from the the table, but he keeps on calling me back. I'm like, Rita, I can't, I have to be polite. He keeps, and she keeps on sending even the waitress to interrupt us over the table. And the waitress is even saying, my God, would Rita get off my back? You don't want to bother these people here. The whole situation was cracking me up. But el colmo, ooh, and his wife's not gonna like this one. Not at all. I'd love to be a fly on the wall when she hears this one. The reason he kept on calling me back to the table, he wanted to know, here, but he wanted to know if the ring that I had on my left finger was a wedding ring. This is typical of Washington. I try to talk to these guys about issues. Yeah, well, their mind is elsewhere. Then, when the shutdown happened and I did all of my letters, I took this Juan Williams, it's a walk from here. I told somebody, I said, yeah, when it gets to 2 hours there, because that's 4 hours back, it gets a little long, but I got no problem with a 2 hour, 3 hour walk. So it's not too far from me. So I walk up there and I hand deliver. Well, his wife, because I'm looking for a mailbox, there is none. So I ring, his wife opens and answers the door, and she is not happy to see me at all. I don't know if she recognized me because they had come into Kalari as well. And I was like, oh, hi, Mr. Williams. At that time, I put him at 76. And, but I understand she's well aware of the rubber, as Anne Sinclair would say. She doesn't have the same attitude as Anne Sinclair. So I don't know, but she wasn't happy to see me at all, which, quite frankly, like, well, sure, I'll give this to my husband. What's this about? And I would have explained to her without spilling the beans on her husband. I mean, that's not my business. That's their business. But Juan Williams is typical of this town. Dime a dozen. So, see how I can take a subject and go into all, just like the wacko feminists and wacko ladies out there. But this is what the social world is about. I mean, men are right. Women, they have small brains. It's just women think differently than men. Women are from Venus and men are from Mars. I mean, most. I have to say, I think more like I many times I'm like, yeah, I don't understand it either. So I'm getting off track, but there needs to be a relook at a lot of different things, particularly relating to gender and what marriage is about, or what social climbing is about, all sorts of stuff. Okay, so let's move on to, well, we got the media. Well, let's do a Kellyanne Conway. Okay, Kellyanne Conway, because it was thanks to the media a lot that she was given a voice and she was able to maneuver. See, This is an extremely manipulative woman. She's a dumb blonde in some ways, but she's not so dumb in many other ways. Let's just say she's not dumb, but she's in narcissism. And welcome aboard the little gravy train in explaining how you're having it all. Let's see how your kids are. All you ladies say, I can do it all. My kids are wonderful. I'm saving the world or doing good in the world. Oh, every time I hear these ladies do good in the world. I mean, really, you'll hear that same doing good in the world. I'm like, do they have a tape that they give you? Because you guys are all repeating the same record that's all like a broken record and full of bullshit, but it's so consistent that I have to ask myself, is there some sort of tape of brainwashing that they give you all to say the same thing? So, I mean, I'm sorry, this woman's a piece of work. A real piece of work. And let's investigate your children. All you little ladies want to support psychological testing in family courts. It's going to bite you in the ass when the tables are turned. Because I know the real psychological, there's the stuff you got in there is bullshit. We're not going to be dealing with bullshit with me. Alpha-Dominance feminist, screaming bitch. I mean, I have had it. I have had it. Now, I will get angry and I will even shout at you. I mean, I think there's a difference between shouting and screaming. Shouting, you're raising your voice, and but you know what you're saying, and there's a message, logical message, and you know, it's usually an emergency type of situation, and that you don't, oh, could you please do? No, you do. Get it done now. Move. No explanation why. Move. I mean, sometimes you have to do that. I mean, that's what taking charge is about. Sometimes, democracy gone. This is a dictatorship at this moment. Because we got to move forward and we got to mobilize. So, yes, or really pissed me off. Yes, you are capable of making me explode. I've been in boot camp for a long time, so it takes a lot to get me there. But yeah, it's possible. However, you know, even then, I'm not going to become, you know, my hysteria lasts like a couple of, you know, not even a minute. But the hysteria, the screaming, yelling, and you can, and I'm talking hours on it or days on it. If you're 3 years old, you're 4 years old, I can deal with that. Normal, you know, temper tantrums of young children happen. That's why you teach them from a young age that you have to learn to direct your temper, your anger, and express your anger. That's why you go to school, how to write. You know, there's a whole process of that. And it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, you don't take a 2-year-old temper tantrum child and voila. So it's a whole process. But I mean, I have had it with that. Just had it. And I will not take it anymore from anybody. You know, you want to throw a temper tantrum, go in the other room. I don't want to hear it. I want to listen to it. And Capitol Hill is filled with nothing but that. Okay, maybe they don't scream hysterically yet, like a lot of the people that I know, but they're on the road. You know, it just, so I want to see all the screaming bitches in this town and their cohorts amongst the men out, drain the swamp, fired, leave. So you know, your typical feminist who, I'm going to show the world that I'm the greatest woman who ever lived. Trump won because of this woman. If she hadn't have stepped in, and this is where I say, yeah, great corporate executive, made her bone, you know, showed what she could do, but you have to look at the morality. I mean, sure, I could do that. I wouldn't, but what I'm saying is, if you know, I was into PR, give me anybody, you know, and I'll I'm sure the PR people, no. But my point being is that she had no conscience or concern about the integrity or morality or what she was empowering. Particularly, I mean, this is the president of the United States. We're talking constitutional issues. We're talking democracy. We're talking a lot of things. So the danger of putting these women into power is right here. I mean, what I was like, oh my goodness, I want to see more about this. I want to investigate this to colonoscopy. When I saw George Conway in the whole bringing down of Clinton, the Starr report, and he had been involved in that. I still have to look at the movie. I just, you know, it's a documentary type of thing. So it's on my to-do list. I'm too tired to listen to all of that right now. So it you know, on the back burner at the moment, but there were a lot of interesting things raised there. But what a pair. What a pair. He might be Harvard, I forget. He's Ivy League. I'm not sure what university Kellyanne Conway went to. Oh, I have sex abuse victim of Kavanaugh. This was, as I say, was written a lot 2020 elections. So that does ring a bell that she did have some accusations there. So another thing, I mean, you know, we see this constantly, these victims, and somebody like that who comes out and say that they were a victim. I mean, okay, in the common law case, there's so many, and there's evidence there. There is some fire there, so they put them in Supreme Court. You know, you claim to be a victim, yet you're re-victimizing the victims with all of your crap. I mean, when I read that the executive assistant accusing Como, this is the one with the sexual harassment issues, had been a victim of sex abuse, I was like, oh gosh. See, yeah, I've been in this for 15 years, and I've been involved in looking at a lot of different cases. So you start to see patterns. And there is a pattern. You see it in the Virginia Giuffre case. Yes, they were victims at one point in time, but not the person that they're accusing. So this is kind of a transference issue. And again, this is why evidence is so important, looking at the entire picture of everyone involved, the motivations, and that is why the courts, it's important that the courts are doing their job and not a forum. You know, I get the courts, you know, this whole, you know, you can't talk about this outside of the courts, and we have, you know, Facebook platforms that are being shut down by the judges about the moms who are on there because they get no justice. They're just getting raked over the coals in the courts. Erin Eddy, my favorite, one of my favorite lines on YouTube. She's out there on YouTube with this. She said, lady, your civil rights, try and take that lemon off for a drive. It's not even getting off the curb. So, you know, it's so important that things are examined in the courts according to proper procedure, the law, evidence. Judges and lawyers and everybody else with a frickin' brain and understand something about the law, and not, I mean, it's usually it's into the press with the celebrities. I mean, that's the objective of the victims. Oh, we have to get a voice in the press because that's the only way we're going to get justice. So they're scrambling. I mean, I've been focusing on the press. I've been on the committee of the press for 6 or 7 years, but it's not to get all the crap. I mean, not my personal issues. It's to get the legal issues that I've been concentrating on out there. I mean, I have to have a cause. You can't just come and say, oh, this isn't fair. Yeah, I got into this because, you know, I had cause and evidence and the if you will, opportunity to do something about the problem. And believe me, I could have done a lot of different roads and gotten global expats out and be nice and schmooze and cruise and bizoo. See, don't criticize Como. Do. Indeed. So, okay, I'll get back on track. Then let's put Barack Obama in there. Kellyanne Conway, Barack Obama. Well, what created the situation for Trump to be able to rise to power? The failure of the Obama administration. When I came back in 2009, everybody, ooh, Obama, Obama. I said, the man doesn't have a magic wand, and they're just going down the same road as everybody else. So, I mean, I can go on and on and on about the different things with the Obama administration, but bailout. After the 2008, that was when the $1 trillion was injected. That was the first $1 trillion. Then we got the $3 trillion recently, which is anti-capitalist. They had to fail. They had to clean it up. So what did they do? They kicked the bucket down, the bucket down the road, and just kept up the game, going. More and more and more and more. Healthcare. This Obamacare, much ado about nothing. So I had a policy before that, I mean, I couldn't believe that I got $150 a month health insurance policy. I mean, it didn't cover anything except, the regular medical visits for women. I mean, that's all I really needed. I mean, regular medical visits that I needed as a person. And if I, ended up in the hospital, I don't know, it was $3,000 or, there was a deductible there, but then it would kick in and cover that. And that was basically what I needed. But anything else is like $300, $400+ $100 a month. I can't afford that. I mean, 150 was already stretching it for me. I mean, I know now they could find me, but I've been without health insurance for I don't know how many years. Because when I moved out to Greenbelt, I lost that health insurance. That was a ramification of it, which I didn't realize. And everything that I looked for online was, when after Obama came in, by this time you got Obamacare that's kicking in, and no way. Just like, Lord, keep me healthy and don't let me get into any accidents. Oh. I even, with the shutdown, and then when spring started, I said, okay, I need to lose some weight. And also just, more exercise, because all I'm doing is walking. So I got a bike. I went online, the cheapest I could find. I used to have a 10-speed Schwinn. That was the best bike ever. I mean, that's how I got up and down throughout Washington. I used to race the courier guys. But the asshole, Jim, he starts screwing around with the gears. He even switched the gears. I'm like, what's happening here? Because I don't know how he did it. They're reversed, and so he screwed up the gears all over the bike. I'm like, well, and I bought a helmet. I never used to ride with a helmet, but I'm like, no, I'm not going to take a chance of now riding the bike with these gears because they're not working correctly. Yeah, I could take it down to the bike shop, but then, he's going to do it again. And I mean, I was like, when he said, oh, how's your bike going? I said, okay, what did you do now? Because these guys, the only reason this is when one of these game players like expresses concern for you, they've done something. There's an ulterior motive. The dollar is right on my mind. Oh my God. If I had a decent gym in DC for the past 13 years, my life would have been so much easier. My adrenaline high comes from my aerobics, and really it's the best high. It's better than any of the freaking drugs that you're going to take. But I mean, you talk about your cash cows in this country. One of the first companies I want to start, a business that I want to start, is a decent gym. Everybody in fat, lazy, and stupid in this country. Obama is no different than Trump. He sold his constituency out. We had a Black president, yet we still have the new Jim Crow in this country. We still have the war on drugs, which the intention was to produce the new Jim Crow and disempower and marginalize and render these people, they don't, they have problems. They have the criminal records, so they can't get jobs. There's the voting issues. There's all sorts of issues. This is a perfect example of how, the minorities or anybody, I mean, it doesn't matter, race, color, creed, whatever. They just, I want to become king or queen, and then it's my turn to rule. Then you get the people who get pissed off because you're oppressing them, who revolt, and you got another revolution, and then you get another color or another group in power. This is the power over paradigm. Another book back there, they talk about that, this power over. And so I have to pull the book out. But, you can never have a society based on equality when you still have that power over mentality and dominance. You've got to dominate the other person. And this PhD and intellectual, new aristocracy is particularly guilty of all of this. So are, the press, all of the celebrities. Look at all of the celebrities. What are they doing for their people? The neighborhoods from which they came, the people from which they came. I mean, you see that with the Cuomo family. I mean, Governor Cuomo, I mean, he's still New York. I mean, he's a New York, Queens. One of my favorite movies is with Eddie. Is it Eddie Murphy? No, it's not Eddie Murphy. Is it Eddie Murphy? I forget. I'm not so great with all of my celebrities, but Coming to America. Where are we gonna go and find a queen? In Queens. They show up, and it's not exactly how they thought it would be. But I mean, it's a classic. It's a really funny movie. They did, going back to Back to America, whatever. It's cute. It's not as good as the first one, but it is cute. So anyway, look, any of the examples. I mean, my favorite is with Ingrid Betancourt. Okay, she's not American, but she's Colombian. And does she care about the Colombian people? No, she's too busy over in Oxford in her ivory tower schmoozing with Baltasar Garzon. Whatever, And believe me, that family is an all other can of beans with the social climbing, and you go back to her mother, her father, and the whole story, and it's just a repeat of what you see time and time and time and time again. I mean, this was one of the things that I was so on top of with my kids, that particularly in Bogota, because we have the driver, the bodyguard, by the end we had two, the huge apartment. When we went to New York for 2000 at New Year's, and stayed at, there's a guy a friend from BBB who was in New York, had an apartment. He was single, but he had a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment. I mean, beautiful apartment. It was at is that Washington Circle, down at the bottom of the west side. And it was the high rise, and we were on the 56th floor. So when we arrive, we walk in. I mean, compared to our apartment, it's tiny, but we walk in, and I mean, my ex and I are just like, oh my God, look at the view, because you have all of Manhattan, below you. At that time, the World Trade Center was still there. And we're like, oh my God, we're like kids. My niece was with us as well. I said, oh my God, you guys, look at this view. And my kids said, ours in Bogota is better than that. Where's the PlayStation? And I just looked at my husband and I said, no, there's just But that was kind of like the view that we had in Bogota from our apartment of Bogota. We were up on the mountain, but it wasn't just one little window. It was a 500 square meter apartment, 3 bedrooms. So yeah, I did not want my children to think that everybody lives like this, and this is something normal, and that this is something that should be taken for granted. With this life, you also have some obligations, and they did stuff with it wasn't really an orphanage. It was a school for abandoned girls in downtown, and we used to like Easter eggs, but they would always come with me with the girls, and we would paint Easter eggs, or I did for Christmas, but they would always come and participate and see that there's another side of life, and you have to appreciate what you have, and not just things that the world is there for you, because too many kids are brought up like that. And it's with the narcissism epidemic, it's worse and worse and worse and worse. And these kids grow up and they are creating as much damage, if not more, than their parents. So obviously, I'm not too big of a fan. I'm no more of a fan than Obama than I am of Trump, because you can't put it all on Obama, but it was his failure to take charge and take the lead and do what needs to be done in this country, which is the Libertarian Party. I would say go to the website. I'm on the same page with them, except the voluntary tax, income tax. I already went over that, saying we already have that system. It's not working. It's just the scumbags who decide who pays and who doesn't pay. So that's not working. So those are those 3. We'll do that. So I got, I didn't give myself one. Oh, Oh, no, that's not my file. Hold on. My file. But I mean, really, all of the presidents, this started with Reagan. I mean, okay, we can discuss that it started before, but a lot of it started with Reagan, for example, the escalation of the war on drugs and the deregulations of the banks, the laissez-faire politics. So, you know, after that, of course, Bush and the Bushes, they go on the same trajectory, but the Clintons, they sold out. My God, you put the foundation in it. How much are they worth? Same thing happened with Obama. I think it's worth 30 million now. That's from book deals, speeches. Well, I can give speeches. I can do book deals, but nobody will give me a voice. And you can see I don't have $30 million. They're trying to get me on the street living in a tent. So I get a king of clubs, Air Force One. The official air traffic control call sign of a United States Air Force aircraft carrying the President of the United States. Okay. Air Force One. You guys gonna make me president? I want it. You can see when I tender my offer, if you will, launch my campaign. I think it was a week before the elections in 2020, because I was like, this is not gonna go well. This is not gonna go well. Out of desperation, here I am, you can vote for me. And well, it goes into the different things, but I say my first qualification for tendering my offer as candidate for president is I don't want the job. Anybody who wants that job has to be crazy. And that's where we got the problem. So, merci pour ton cadeau pourri. Okay, now we'll get into Alice in Wonderland. I'm having more fun though. Because with writing, I mean, the advantage with writing is that, you know, you can edit, you know, I'm going to take this out, I'm going to take that out. And I'm not a public speaker at all. Okay, so we've got, I mean, it's just fine. I'm in my room. I don't see the audience. So we've got, for the first one, who is Michael Savage. You're nothing but a pack of cards. He doesn't say more. Kellyanne Conway. We got Humpty Dumpty there. You can see. I said it very loud and clear. I went and shouted in his ear. Whose ear do you think Kellyanne Conway shouted in? Trump or her husband or both? Oh, those poor kids, that family. Okay, so for Barack Obama, excuse me, for Barack Obama, oh, oysters, come and walk with us. The walrus did beseech. Oh, I have to say, I love this Alice in Wonderland. I got to read the book thoroughly and her books. So this is, oh gosh, okay, again, this is mine. All Mimsy were the Morogroves and the Momraths outgrabbed or outgrabe. Okay, again, I'm really gonna have to Google this, what all of these words mean. But does it go with my Air Force One presidency? Up and away, let's fly off. I don't know, cacophony. So, okay, I really am gonna have to Google what these words mean. Okay, so we'll go with the second one. I'm pulling out the ones that I've done, so I guess if we're here a couple months from now, I'll have gone through all of the facts. Okay, so the second card is the Lying Dutchman. So this is a Russian oligarch, German Khan's son-in-law, hired to write report on Ukraine political opponent of Viktor Yanukovych, a client of Rick Gates and Paul Manafort. Leaked details to report to Rick Gates, then lied to FBI about communications with Gates, and deleted related emails requested by special counsel, pleaded guilty to making material false, fictitious, and fraudulent statements and representation to the FBI and the Trump-Russian investigation, served 30 days in jail and deported to the Netherlands. So guilty. All over the freaking map. I'm not familiar with this person. And see, it doesn't matter the nationalities. I mean, my sister, her ex-husband is Dutch, and so of course her 2 children are Dutch. I mean, her daughter is, you know, in the corporate world, and it's a whole pyramid, and you know, you'll find this a dime a dozen, a dime a dozen. And so, yeah, going after these guys after the fact, you have to do, but you have to stop waiting until everything explodes in your face and then targeting certain individuals because you want to, that's, you know, the protected group that you want to take out, because it's just, you know, the political games. I mean, well, Washington, they don't even care about the people. It's just the political games between, because it's only the Republicans and Democrats who have any power. I mean, one of the reasons, I mean, it's also they're lacking some leadership, the Libertarian Party, because they have a good platform. They lack leadership, but also all of the money that's going in to the Democratic and Republican parties. Nobody can compete with that. And it's a business. It's disgusting. There's no other word for it. So, you know, as I say, I don't follow all of these individual cases, but yet another guilty, another, until we get to the next coup d'etat. Start getting it right for the, let's get somebody who has a freaking brain and some freaking balls. I mean, Lee Iacocca, one of my favorite books, I quote him all the time. Where have all the leaders gone? And I've always been a big fan of Lee Iacocca. I remember, I read back in the 80s. I was still in college, I think, but about Chrysler and he started in the mailroom. Then some Ivy League big wig. That's part of the problem that's gotten into management. Make your bones. One of the reasons that I know all of this about administrative and office management was because I was an intern. For me, I hope I was the right hand of Patsy Geyer. Anything the Patsy needed, oh gosh, you would send me up to the archives to go and look for this letter or that letter or this file or that file, and they had been sent through what do they call that? They would scan it all, but she wanted the hard copy. And so I'd have to go there and search through all, because when it would go through the scanning process, it would get totally, chaos. So, but it was, for 5 years I worked there. One of the reasons I stayed, well, she was also one of the few sane people in this town, but I learned so much from her about administrative, filing systems, administrative work, A to Z. Yeah, okay. There was nothing, theories and that they're teaching in college. No. Working in a restaurant. Everybody should work in a restaurant. Because if you're not on the ball, you're gonna fall. I always equate when I was in the financial markets, I was there for the 87 crash, and I get it. Well, I was always like, it's really fun to gamble with other people's money. Because it is a casino. And when the markets collapsed, and then we had all of the trading afterwards, because the thing is with trading, I guess it's kind of a war. You sit around waiting for the action to happen. And when the action starts, you better be moving and so fast, otherwise you're gonna get killed. And I ended up the coordinator because we always hired dumb blondes. But I'm sitting there with a phone here, another phone there, screaming down. See, this is when screaming, shouting down to the back office. Which I don't know if they can hear me from where I'm sitting. Then I got the other trader down here at so I'm shouting there. I got two phones. But believe me, it gives you an adrenaline high. So I can understand how these traders, you get into that. Just like I can understand, how a casino, somebody who gets into gambling. But it got real old real quick. So I can understand that, but I'm like, this is not a life. This is definitely not a way to live your life. Yeah, you make great money, but the stress, and I learned. I was like, okay, I learned I learned a shitload the 2 years that I worked in the markets. So no regrets, but I do understand how you can get addicted to that lifestyle and all of it that goes with it. And to keep up with it, I got an A type of personality. I think, I don't know, I need something kind of to zen me out. I don't need any of your stuff to get me there. I already go there. So you know, that's I mean, we see it repeated. So we got another guilty party here. Rick Gates, Trump deputy campaign manager, the turncoat, partner of Paul Manafort, lobbyist for Russian oligarchs and allies of Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukraine President Viktor Yanukovych. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. Trump deputy campaign manager illicitly communicated with Russian spy connected to Russian military unit GRU. Indicted for conspiracy against the United States, money laundering, tax evasion, bank fraud, and acting as an unregistered agent of foreign governments. Pleaded guilty to conspiracy against the United States and making false statements to the FBI as part of a plea bargain cooperating witness against Paul Manafort. Yet another, I mean, this is repeats. However, in this one, there is an important element there that gets into the domestic violence extremist report of Biden and the foreign nationals with sovereign immunity. Because here it says acting as an unregistered agent of foreign governments. Well, UN, World Bank, IMF, think tanks, but let's concentrate on UN, World Bank, and IMF because those are, because the think tanks are funded a little, differently. So we're talking about a little bit different situation, but similar. So let's just use the example of World Bank. Dr. Kim left because the infighting, it's not about the mission of the World Bank. It's about the blacks, the browns, the yellows, and the whites vying for power. And this is, totally the international development community, or international community all over the place. So we have different camps. You've got the Americans and the Europeans, buddy, trying to be the world dominators, military, economic, and social. And they've been at the lead. And since even the Bretton Woods after World War II, they've been at the lead. The Americans just took the lead as the empire builders after World War II, when Europe almost totally self-destructed. No lessons learned, guys. So Americans and Europeans. Then there's the Brazilians at the head of the Latin American coalition, if you will. Got the South Africans at the lead of the African area. Then the Indians, who are kind of, taking the lead, they come out the lead of that area. So with the Indians, we get a little convoluted because the Hindus and the Muslim Arabs, there's a divide, but let's just package them there together. I mean, you might, Saudi Arabia, you might say that's so that's that area. Then China wants to be the dominator for Asia, and Russia for Eastern Europe. So all of the different factions within, for example, of the World Bank, we don't get too complicated, but same things going on in the IMF and the UN. The employees, what they're dedicated to is supremacy for their particular group, just like the feminist. And see, this also gets convoluted because, of course, within the blacks, you have men and you have the women. So right now they're buddy-buddy. And well, see, then you have also within that group that's vying for power, you have an internal struggle between the feminists and the men. So within each of these groups, you also have this internal struggle. However, there is a unity for, you'll see, Black Lives Matter. There is a unity between the men and the women and the different factions. So there is a certain unity, but they don't go anywhere except go and give speeches and get up on a podium like everybody else, because it is everybody for them, they're all trying to promote their particular agenda or their careers or themselves. But there's no leadership, and they're all, the different players just want power and glory for themselves, and another book deal and another podium speech. But the bottom line is everybody is out for themselves. So of course, in that type of situation, nobody's going to fulfill the mission statement of their organization, and there's just infighting, and that's, I mean, put my hand on fire, I'll even bet. As I say, I'm not a real betting woman, but I'll even put $5 down on a real bet. That Dr. Kim left because of that. I mean, he threw his hands up. There's no other real viable explanation. Well, my first thing was maybe he had an affair and he wanted to avoid a scandal, but somebody in the World Bank said, no, it wasn't that. It wasn't that. I said, oh, what, did he have an affair? I don't know. That was that's a possibility, but that's apparently not why he left. The only other logical explanation would be that he just, I can't do anything here. That's why I applied for the job as a World Bank. When I saw he left and David Malpass was going to come in, I'm like, oh, you put me in there. You put me in there as president. No worries. And after working at Kalari, I got a whole list of other people that I know, because of course most of the people that I knew are IMF. You do have a lot of back and forth, but most were IMF. But after Kalari, I'm like, ooh, I got a whole list of some real power hungry bitches in this town who need a wake-up call and who come under the domestic violent extremists, but are protected by diplomatic immunity, which gets into, they're coming after them. See, nobody realizes the ramifications of a lot of the legal stuff that they're doing and the jurisprudence that they can produce. So this, unregistered agent of foreign governments. Any of these people, World Bank is the example, we're not working towards the mission of the organization, which is 99% of everybody in there. Not only can I go a whole slew of stuff that I've been building cases on, but now this, You're a foreign agent. You've been sent here by your country. You're working in the interest of the Chinese or the Russians or South Africa, whatever. Not in the interest of democracy or not in the interest of the mission of this organization. You're here either for your own pocketbook or because you're a spy for your government. Pick your poison. When I saw this stuff that they're pulling out, I mean, it's not that I disagree, but I'm like, you want to set these standards, these jurisprudences, I'll use them against you. See, this is where I always say, throw lemons at me, go ahead. I learned a long time ago, grab them, and here's the best lemonade you've ever tasted. See, this is one of the jobs that, women, and quite frankly, I'm like, men, at least men, we're done, we're good. Glenn Close with what's the movie with where she's Michael Douglas with the knife, and I think it scared every single man, not just in this country, in the world, that he has an affair and then she comes back and I mean, Glenn Close, that's one. Oh, when she tries with the Me Too to like say that St. George's exclusive boarding school in Switzerland and Choate Rosemary Hall in the United States are cults, and that she was abused by having been sent. Well, I don't know. There's the is MRA, moral readjustment, because that's her father had gone. And but see, look at that organization. And that's the precursor, if you will, to the whole idea of Bretton Woods. Good idea. Finish the same as Bretton Woods. Okay, now much smaller scale. And this was, I think this was after World War I that started. But there was nothing wrong with the mission. They just got involved with, we're gonna do it with parties and so it was wacko kumbaya. One of the guys at the IMF, he said to me, he said, yeah, one of these kumbaya meetings, the HR. I said, oh, that's a new one. I haven't heard that. I'll have to remember that one. Yes. All they do. I mean, I'm like, no. Take your kumbaya bullshit and shove it. The workplace is out of control. Out of control with the bullshit that the HR function is producing. So I guess I'm getting off subject again. So now we've got the eldest of Azerbaijan, rock star, son of Kremlin-connected Russian oligarch Aris Agalarov, teamed with father and Rob Goldstone to organize 2016 Trump Tower meeting to deliver Clinton campaign dirt, partner with Trump and his father Aras in the 2013 Miss Universe contest, tweeted, Mr. Trump, thank you for bringing Miss Universe to us. We had an awesome time, Trump Tower, Moscow. Let's make it happen. Emin's salacious music video of his song Got Me Good features Trump satirizing his greed and Russian backdoor deals. This is a communist country. you know, this whole celebrity, they're on the same bandwagon. So don't even get me started on the Miss Universe stuff. I mean, first, Miss Universe, it's a poor person's person, the debutante party. It's just another version of the debutante party. So, yeah, ditto on both of those things. I mean, I won't go into the whole story of how I ended up at the debutante party of Washington. But it's something, it's like opening a wound and pouring salt on it, subject with me. So, won't go there, but as I say, I felt like a freaking piece of meat up on an auction block, and I was. I know why they brought back the debutante party, because it did that I get into, you know, at length, and it was to promote a social climbing vehicle, which it has done for ladder grapplers, and, you know, produce a new ruling elite that just cares about pomp and circumstance, and the white dresses and the crap that goes with it. So yeah, that's with the Miss Universe. 2016 Trump Tower meeting to deliver Clinton campaign dirt. This is all they do. I mean, you know, how can you fault one group? Get dirt, get dirt. What do you think Cuomo's ousting is about? Get dirt, get dirt. And if there's no dirt, let's make it up. And I mean, you used to have to bribe people to get involved in something like this. Now you just promise them a cushy career, and you're going to come on our little camp with the feminists, and you got, you know, protection in our protection racket, in our little mafia. Come on board. So who cares about the ethics or legality of anything you do when you get there? I'm sorry, Governor Cuomo, but your case just smells. If it smells like shit, it usually is shit. If it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, and looks like a duck, it's a duck. Oh, forgot my other one. My finishing. Oh, and yeah, it's an age-old story. And the invention of the steam engine, the invention of the wheel, whatever. I mean, this is the thing. Homo sapiens, the biology and, you know, how our brain works and physically and changed in tens of thousands of years. And we still all put our pants on with one leg at a time. If you're a woman, you still pull your skirt up the same way. So I get, oh no, they gave me Air Force One last time. You little assholes, you shut the because there's no friggin' way. Presidential seal. The seal of the President of the United States. Oh, it's only the seal I get. Okay, so maybe I'm okay. is used to mark correspondence from the US president to the US Congress, and is also used as a symbol of the presidency itself. Okay, well, let me take it just as this is a seal to mark my correspondence to Congress. Read your frickin' mail. Hire some people who have a brain instead of your jailbait. Oh, that's all there. That's all there is up there. We were up there for 5 years, and the jailbait is just a revolving door. So now I'm going to go with the. I mean, I may have been jailbait age, but I can assure you I was there to work when the whole Clinton thing came out, and I was in Europe. And, you know, it would come up in a conversation. I'd been an intern for a senator. They were like, oh, I said, look, the only thing I ever opened was the senator's mail. See, and it pissed me off because Monica Lewinsky really, you know, it's everybody's reputation, or what people think. But you know, this whole thing, oh, she was young, she did. Excuse me, this is why by the time they get to 18 and they're going to work in that environment, they better have a little understanding of what the game is all about. I mean, sure, of course not. 17 years old, 18 years old, I'm not going to know what the score is when I'm 25 or an old lady like me. And you have to be an old lady like me, you've seen it all. So, the Lying Dutchman gets, one would hardly suppose that your eye was as steady as ever. Well, yeah, when you lie, your eyes kind of get. So the turncoat is the king of spades. If you do such a thing again, I'll have you buttered. So if you get in bed with the Ukraine, communicate with Russian spies, or money launder, tax evasion, act as an unregistered agent of foreign governments, conspire against the United States, and make false statements to the FBI, we will have you buttered. Oh, why don't you just send like tons and tons and tons of butter and drop it all on top of Washington? Okay, the next one. This is for the Elvis of Azerbaijan. Silence in court. Oh, okay, yeah. All over the map on Match. Okay, and I speak English, doesn't I? Or are you deaf? Could this be in relation to Melania Trump being in office? And, you know, this is not against Melania or immigrants, but I'm sorry, little lady. It's against the bimbos who just care about, you know, the five-star hotels and the jet set and the good life, and who gives a shit, you know, what your husband's doing, what you are participating in. I mean, you know, you have to consider that. So, but I speak English, doesn't it? Or are you deaf? Well, I think everybody in Washington is deaf. My mother used to always say, Because we would say, no, we didn't hear you. She would say, no, you didn't listen. One of the few things that I actually agree with my mother about. So there we go. Oh, I forgot, maybe it's, how many did I get? Well, we were with 8, so I get 8. 2, 4. I just get 8 today. Oh, I forgot to look up where I was, but the other players, they're already in that red. This will bring them, I think, almost, I think it might have been 8, 15 or 16 they're at now. In the red, I still have to decide what usury fees I'm gonna charge them. So anyway, that's the card game this evening. I don't know. I hope it's informative. I hope it's a little bit entertaining, because it gets to the point where if you don't laugh, you're gonna cry. And I guess it's better to laugh than to cry. Enough of that. Okay, have a nice evening. Okay. Huh.